So this is how all my systems work together: project management, tracking and memory keeping, mindfulness, meditation, microjournaling, weekly planning, and daily task management, habit, routine management. But I'm going to get into the nitty-gritty of how I integrate these systems together and how I use them on a daily basis. These four all live at my desk. These two are my daily portable system. I do go into more detail about both of these in other videos. These are the two things I carry with me on a regular basis. They're small enough to fit into a pouch, along with a couple of other things, including some post-it notes, some washi tape, some writing implements, and this is the thing that I throw in my bag. This is what I carry with me. So let's say it's time for my weekly reset, which I like to do on Sundays. This is my whole checklist, and my weekly reset is always going to start by rewriting this checklist. And then I go through the steps one by one, starting my routine, adding things to my weekly pre-planner, planning out when I'm going to do certain routines, when my available time is, what my priorities are that I'm working on, some additional material I like to keep at hand as a prompt for how I can kind of spend my time collaborating with my partner on meal plans, grocery plans, planning out errands, restocking house supplies, etc., and writing out my routines. Writing out my routines means I'm writing out my morning, mid-morning house cleaning, my creative commute, my pre-work routines and post-work routines, and my bedtime or evening routines. This gives me a whole habit tracker for the week, and it also allows flexibility because there might be days when I pick and choose. I'm not expecting I'm going to get this done all the time. The goal is not to have like a pristine set of check marks. It's to have a list to tell my brain what to do next when it struggles to figure out what to do, even if I'm doing the same thing I've been doing every morning for 20 years, which isn't the case because habit formation, especially in morning routine stuff, has really only started coming to me recently. And this is something I've struggled with for most of my life, and this helps make it just a tiny bit easier. Now, I start my day with my morning routine, which I try to keep fairly simple: hydration, hygiene, health, and fitness, doing one exercise in the morning just to get me moving, and then a few things to transition into the next part of my day, which includes my mid-morning routine. And this is where my planner update routine occurs. This is my time to check in with my line-a-day planners, both of these. I'm using two different 5-year line-a-day journals. The first one is for myself. This is microjournaling. I want to start a daily journaling habit. I'm going to answer these questions. Someone else already curated these prompts for me. I just get to see how I change and grow over time. The second one is for me to track observations about the world, about the weather, about changing seasons. And this is a way for me to really immerse myself in the natural cycles and seasons of the year. I'm trying to develop much more of a mindful awareness of the passage of time. And so this is my way to chronicle time as it exists outside of me, remarking on events in my community, festivals, holidays, flora, fauna, significant events, foods that are in season, and a variety of other things. This is where my planner update routine occurs, and many of these spreads, which are in my Sterling Ink Common Planner, a yearly movement and exercise tracker, quarterly word count trackers, monthly media trackers, weekly time trackers, and daily journaling. When I get through that checklist, then it's time for me to start my day by examining my daily tasks. Time blocking on the weekly schedule gives me a framework to develop my dailies with a divider, so I have room to set an intention for the day, but also isolate individual tasks that might need to occur around that time. For tasks that don't fit into my weekly routines, intentions for cooking recipes, sometimes reference materials that I might need, and sometimes days that don't get used, because that is part of the process. In order to write down my initial intention for the day, in order to do my planning ahead for a day at a time, I have to look at my weekly planner, which is part of what I set up during this weekly reset. So this is what a week of mine would look like when it's time blocked out, starting my day with my morning routines, ending my day with my evening routines, and everything that comes in the middle. So if I was looking at this Sunday, for example, and I was going to block out what my day would look like, I would say, okay, I'm going to start with my morning routine, which is a cue for me to look at this habit tracker. That this links directly here. So when I see this, I go, this is what I need to look at. Next, my mid-morning routine. I'd like to eat something. I would like to start my weekly reset. I'm gonna have a proper brunch. I'm going to get ready to go to a social event, and I might give myself a cue by 12:30, which I might then backtrack. I'll say that means I need to take a shower. And I'll sort of fill in the additional things that I might not have considered while I was time blocking very loosely. I'm thinking about what my immediate needs are going to be. Oh, I'm going to eat. What am I going to eat? What do I actually have in the fridge? I've got maybe some leftovers. Question mark? It's not set in stone. I can change this at any point. I have the freedom. I have the power. I can do what I want. Go to games with friends, and I make sure to bring a snack. So remember, I'm running out of room here. So here's a task that's gonna crop up. Pack, snack, bag. Right. And games with friends will last for most of the day, most of the afternoon. I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna make dinner. What are we gonna have for dinner? We've already planned it out because that was part of our weekly reset from last week. Balsamic chicken with couscous and broccoli. And then I've got this mental note, oh, I need to defrost the chicken. That means I need to take the chicken out of the freezer in the morning and put it in the fridge before I leave. And if I forget to do this, whoops, dinner intention thrown out the window. I guess we're ordering. After dinner, I'd like to have a proper rest, which means I'm going to be choosing something off of my reward list. So probably like a video game or just something relaxing and leisurely. But I do want to wash my hair before bed and before my evening routines. And I'd like to be in bed by midnight. And I've still got a lot of room here, a lot of additional space to add things in if something comes up. If I remember something during the day, I can write it down. And it's just very easy for me to identify what I need to be looking at. Many of these are prompts to look at these lists. I wouldn't necessarily remember to look at these lists by themselves independently, or I might feel resistant to the idea of opening this up as a habit tracker and saying, okay, what's to get done? But if I really look at this as a guide to say, hey, this is the best way to support you. Look at all this stuff you have on your plate. If you don't do this stuff early on, you will not be well prepared for the fun stuff later, right? Because you'll be tired, you'll be sleep deprived, you'll be hungry, you'll be feeling dysfunctional. This is the supportive stuff I really need to help ease me into the day. And you might think, why write it twice, right? Because these are basically the same thing. But part of what this does, the weekly schedule is it preloads that schedule for the week into my brain so that I'm prepared for any variations in schedule. Because I have different demands on my time from week to week, this really helps me visualize it so I'm feeling prepared and not blindsided by anything that comes up. But I'm doing this on a weekly basis. And then this is what I'm doing on a daily basis. I'm continually checking in and referencing these lists and asking myself how this specific day is going to go, really narrowing in, because this does help give me an overview, but it doesn't help me remember things like, oh, there isn't a prompt here to take a shower. I need something that's a little more detailed where I can zoom in on individual days and go, oh, here's how this day is going to go. Sometimes what happens is that I'll have a free time. I'll have a period where maybe I don't have something scheduled here. Here I wrote down that I had an intention to write, but maybe I didn't have an intention to write that day, and maybe I could choose something to fill this time. That's where the project planner comes in. My project planner is a casual holding area for tracking progress, tasks, achievements, and long-term goals. I like to treat it as a menu of options, reminding me of passion projects, of my interests, all the things that I want to do and learn. There's a lot of ways that you could organize this info, and for now I'm categorizing projects by time of day. Morning is for the home, health, and self. Afternoon is for creative projects, freelance work, my part-time job. Evening is for leisure, rest, and recreation, which includes hobbies and other passion projects. So my project planner includes everything from house projects to exercise challenges to YouTube ideas to language learning goals to gaming achievements and projects. When I have open time in my schedule and I don't know how to fill it, when I have the energy to do something but I don't know what to do, this is where I look. Because picking out what looks good and excites me the most is a really good way to make sure that I actually have the focus and the energy to carry out that project. I have blank paper in the back so that I can always make a new page, a new list of something. It's more like a bullet journal collection that I can move around because it's on a disc-bound system. And the reason why I do this is because I know that these projects aren't things that I'm going to finish immediately or quickly or in a single session. And that it's very likely I might have a good afternoon of hyperfocus where I put 6 hours of work into something, but then I don't touch it again for 6 months. I need a way of remembering where I was so I can jump back into the project fairly seamlessly, even though there might be large gaps between the times when I'm actually investing in it. I feel like I've lived a lot of my life the same way I've played video games, where I get really obsessed with something for a short period of time, and then I put the game down, and when I come back to it, I have no idea where I was. I don't remember anything that was happening, and so I delete the save file and I go back to the beginning and I start again. This is a tracker for a yoga challenge. I'm always excited to start 30-day yoga challenges because I really do think each time that I'm going to get through it. But of course, setting a 30-day habit and carrying it out perfectly is really difficult to do, even if this is like your 10th attempt. And I can't tell you how many times I've started these Yoga with Adriene 30-day yoga challenges and gotten to day like 11 and then felt like a failure and just restarted the whole thing instead of continuing on, instead of remembering where I was and just keep going even months later, because this is actually giving me a real sense of satisfaction that I'm working through a 30-day yoga challenge, even though it's taking months. When you factor it out, on average, this was sort of like one a week, but this is my pattern of progress. If I got to day 11 and felt like a failure because I wasn't actually being that consistent, and I went back to the beginning and I started over, I'd never be making it to day 20, to day 30.